meeting to order. So we're going to call the meeting of the Registrars Board on today is August 29th, right? So let's do a roll.
Okay, Connie.
Here.
Anne.
Present.
Bart.
I'm here.
And Kari is here as well. Okay, thanks.
So Bart, before you hopped on, Kari was just telling us how many things have come in, have been returned so far. So I think we'll go back and go over that again.
Yes. Okay, so for the state primary, let's see. For the state primary, out of 3,291 ballots that have been mailed, 1,209 have been returned, which is a 37% return.
And they're due by today, right? Isn't this 29 August or 27?
The application, so we have a few deadlines.
Oh.
The 27th was the deadline to register to vote by 5 p.m. The 29th is at 5 p.m. is the deadline to apply for a vote by mail or absentee ballot by mail.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, so we're not likely to have more of these. And okay, so that was the primary return, and I'll look at the local ballot return. And of those 3,261 requests for local ballots, we have 952 returned so far, which is a 29% return.
And those, of course, can still come in until
voting.
Yes. Yeah. So the
Until
ballots
September 6th.
Until,
Well,
yes, they can come in through September 6th at 8 p.m. The ones that come in before the 6th and are registered, so by whatever comes in by Friday at 12:30, or whenever we leave work on Friday and stop registering them, then anything that comes in after that will have to go to the polls on election day. Anything that's received and entered as received before that will land on a voter list, on a voter check-in list, showing that the ballot has been returned, and those will be processed at a central tabulation facility, which will be in the hearing room.
When they go to the polling places, then they are opened up there and put into the machine. Is that correct? At that place?
Right, at the central tabulation. They're checked in. It's like an absentee ballot at the polls. And absentee ballots are still delivered to the polls. So they're checked in. The warden or election worker stands in place of the voter, reads the name out loud, has the address repeated by the voter. The election officer requests and it's repeated. And at that point, someone can challenge a ballot. So that's why it has to be read out loud. And then they're checked in, the ballot is removed from the envelope, and then it's inserted into the tabulator.
and that's the case for the absentee or the mail-in, both.
The absentees have the same process, but it's done at the polls.
Yeah.
And that's always been the case with absentee ballots.
Have they ever been challenged?
The only time that it would be challenged is if there was a voter who needed, it used to be an inactive voter who didn't have ID. So an inactive voter who comes in person and doesn't have ID is challenged. And the challenge information is written on the back. An absentee voter who applies in writing is signing an affidavit that they're residing at this address in Concord. So they're satisfying that requirement. And we don't need ID in that case. So
I just want to understand. So if it's an absentee ballot and they've signed and they have the affidavit,
Mhm.
then you don't need to check their signature later. Is
Oh,
that
no, we
correct?
checked, for any ballots, vote by mail or absentee ballots that come back,
Okay,
we check the signature against the application.
Mhm.
okay,
So if they apply, and so I know we have at least one call out to a voter whose application signature definitely is not the same as the ballot signature.
mhm,
So we've made a call, and I don't know how that's been resolved, whether the voter has come in, to verify that. It could have been that a house, there is a provision for absentee for a family member to apply.
Yeah.
And I think there's also that provision for vote by mail for a family member to apply.
Yeah.
But the family member has to then check that they've applied on behalf of the voter.
Ah, so there's a.
Right.
Because if they don't check, then we think it's the voter who's applied on their own behalf, and we're verifying signatures. We're not going to
Right.
verify signature against a family member.
but does the application for the mail-in didn't have a box, correct, that said, I'm signing for this person? So we
I
don't
think it
know,
did.
There were two forms of
Did?
application. The postcard did not,
okay,
Oh, really?
but the longer form I think did. I don't have one right in front of me.
I don't
I
look,
have.
thought I
but-
remember seeing the postcard did have one, but you would know, because you're looking at it.
Yeah, tell
Yeah.
us.
I have this here.
Okay,
No
Uh,
box, no checkbox.
Just says signed and date.
yeah. Because it
Um,
was sent to every voter, the assumption is that every voter is going to be able to sign it. But of course, someone who is,
oh,
I've received a few for voters who are overseas, and they've been living overseas. And I know because every year they get an overseas ballot. And so I'm emailing them with the last email that I have in the system to confirm what is their residency. If they're still residing and they confirm for me that they're residing overseas, then I'm going to email them the state primary ballot.
okay. So what do we, okay, now I guess my question, I was just thinking about, since I did see some of these guys come through, that was kind of obvious when I checked their, the signature against the state, the one that the state has on file. It was kind of obvious in some cases that like a parent had signed for a kid, or a husband had signed for a wife, because like I had two right in a row that had very similar signatures, but only one of them matched the system. So I don't know what's going to happen in those cases. So hopefully, well, guess we'll find out.
Did you find a checkbox, Connie?
So what,
Not on this, no, it's not on this.
Yeah. That's
so
interesting.
what we're trying to do is to determine that the voter themselves is actually requesting the ballot.
Right,
And so I can do that via email through these,
okay,
for the overseas voters through their email. So when someone signed, someone's mom, I reached out and said, looks like someone applied on your behalf. Are you
Okay.
requesting? And are you still, what is your residence? Because I cannot email a ballot if I don't have a residence overseas, and it's the same residence that they had the previous year that I can check. So,
Kari, just going back to the comment you said a little while ago about the checking against the application signature. To do the return, both absentee and, no, I guess this would be for mail-in ballot, or
both.
that you're checking
Yeah.
against the application signature, but we're not necessarily sure that signature might be validated.
right. That's
Because
what
we-
I was saying. That,
Yeah.
So if we can't match it, the next thing we do is check it against the voter registration card signature
okay,
and see. So we have a number of election workers that are doing that signature verification, because we're not entering them as received until the signature is verified. And unfortunately, we're getting a lot of them that are either not in the ballot envelope at all. It's just the ballot in the white mailing return. And so those we have to reject. So we've called every one of those voters where we have a phone number, or we've mailed a new packet out to them and said we had to reject it. because you didn't sign or there was no outer, inner envelope. And then we have to get that back or we can't do anything. Those are rejected ballots
Wow.
because they're signing an affidavit.
So much work. Ugh,
Yeah, it's a lot of steps.
yeah.
So the
yeah.
election workers, are those the 20 some odd people that were approved by the Board of Selectmen in 2 weeks ago or something like that? I remember seeing
That's actually, I sent it last week. They're on the agenda for tonight to be
Good.
approved. And
that's the same list. That's
it's-
who you're talking about, right? The election workers?
yes, there are more than those, though. There is a total of 98 election workers. There was
Wow.
a group of election workers. Did I not forward that memo to you? I will do that.
You
if
might
I
have to
didn't.
remember the
There
letter.
was a
that's from July.
smaller group than 98.
Yeah, so there were, I think there were 69 that were appointed in July. For the end of July, because their terms are annual and they expire end of July.
Mhm.
So we got one group out because we hadn't heard back from a lot of people. And then as we've heard back from more people, we sent another request out. I mean, another appointment memo out to get people appointed.
So those are the folks that are doing the signature match for the mail-in
Yes.
and absentee ballots.
Yes. Yep.
And what's the process? How do they do it? Is it one person says, takes a look at it and says this matches? Or do you have more than one set of eyes that goes on each one?
No, I think it's pretty much the process that you had done when you came in is you're looking, you look at the ballot envelope signature and you compare it to the application signature.
Okay. I was just
We're
wondering
not, it's tough because the regulations say we're not handwriting experts, and indeed we're not handwriting experts, but we have to somehow, be able to say, okay, we can see that it looks like it's the same signature. And in most cases, that's the case. And in some cases, they'll bring it to us and, one will look like it's a very rushed signature and the other one looks, but the slant is the same and, whatever, those types of things. But we also have the online portal now that allows people to apply for a vote by mail ballot without a signature.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So with that process, they have to enter their information into the state system to confirm that they're a registered voter. Once they've passed through that gate, then they can apply for the ballot.
Online.
And then yes,
Never
yes.
need a signature. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have one accessible, she wants an accessible ballot, which is something that is coordinated through the state. And I sent her the information and then she registered to vote. And that's not the same as getting an accessible ballot. So I then called her back and actually she had emailed me at that point. So I emailed her back and gave her a screenshot. This is what it needs to look like. You need to go through this in order to apply for an accessible ballot, because an accessible ballot is sent to you to your email. So you get a link in one email and then a PIN code in another email that would allow someone from whatever keyboard works for them to vote, and then either print it and mail it, or it gets sent back through a portal to the state. And I haven't gone through the entire process. I have all the procedures written down, but I haven't had to go through the entire thing. There is a contact at the state, though, the person who's been giving us the trainings.
Wow.
And so I will look in, I'll check in with her, but I have not actually gotten that request from her. So, and today's the deadline, so.
Looks like it's not much of an issue this year.
No, but it's something, and I wasn't entirely sure, you need to click a box that that confirms that you need an accessible ballot, and then you need to have an email to get the accessible ballot. And if you don't, then there is another method that has a hole punch in the corner of the envelope, but I have no idea how that process works. So yeah, I'm just gonna actually check right now to see if there are any in the portal, in the state portal system, because we're almost at that point.
Connie, it sounds
I
like
have 4 additional that have come in, sorry.
Huh. That's for the accessible ones?
Not the accessible, they're just have come in through the portal between Saturday. Oh, actually, they came through on Sunday. So I'm gonna print that so that I can get those entered in today, because they're within the deadline. It has a date and time stamp on it, so I can tell. But I haven't gotten that one back. But this person said that they were able to drive, so, you know, it may be that she got information and she was just looking for additional information about it. But if she's able to drive and can come to the polls, we have the accessible, it's basically a ballot printer where they can use the screen, the voter assist terminal, they can use the screen to select their choices, and then it will print the ballot, filling in the ovals where they made their choices.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes.
it's pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive to me how much work has gone into making voting accessible.
Yeah, they're always working on improving that. They did not have a lot of time between when the legislation was passed and they were told to have the portal available. There wasn't a lot of time to really beef it up to be something that it probably could be better, but it's working. So that's the main thing. It's working. It will improve because it's now in the law, but it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it takes more than 6 weeks
Yeah.
to do. So, yes. So, I did send you some minutes just to jump in, and I'm sorry,
Yeah, I
Connie, if
skipped.
I'm jumping ahead.
And I should have done that first.
Mhm.
And I did see them, and I did even read them.
They're short, and I don't know if there's more to be added. I went through my notes. It was kind of a wrap up from the previous.
Yeah, it seemed all right to me, but
Yeah.
maybe other people have thoughts about it.
I'm all set.
Good, then I move that we approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
So approved. Thank you.
Good.
Looks like all in favor. Oh, roll
Aye.
call, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, Connie,
I
Ann,
Yes, yes, I.
Bart,
Aye.
and Kari, aye. Okay, approved by roll call. Okay, and then the early removal, the advanced removal.
Weren't you looking for some guidance or recommendations from the state on that one? There was something that was outstanding, right? That we were looking for their recommendations.
We're looking for regulations, and
Yeah.
I attended a training where they said that they will be similar to the ones from 2020,
Okay.
but I have not seen them.
Okay. And this has to do with those the early opening and the early processing, right? For
Right.
both. Okay.
Yeah.
So our issue is finding enough people to do that? Is that?
Well, the first question is this something that we want to do? Do we want to do advanced removal is what it's called. So in advance of the election, we are checking those ballots, and you can only check up through the ones received the day before you're doing the advanced removal, checking them off the voter list. So it's an early check-in, and then just separating the ballot from the envelope, allowing the ballots to flatten so that on election day, they don't have to be checked in. Those that are in a sealed box that have already been opened and flattened could be tabulated without any additional check-in done.
It seems like a move for efficiency. And it sounds like if we can get workers to do the work, and you've told me that we are not eligible to do it, but if other people to do it, I think it would be a good idea. It will get those votes processed much more quickly and make the evening of the voting day much easier for people.
Yeah, my thoughts are, no, for the people who volunteered to do it last time, are they basically the same people who work at the polls anyway?
I know that Carlin was involved in it. I think she's working upstairs right now, so she's not able to hop onto the meeting. But Carlin wasn't, as far as who the people would be?
Yeah, I mean, just saying in general, they're the same people who work at the polls on election day.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Yeah, I mean, they're election workers. We would do training to make sure. We would meet with Carlin. She had already sent some information from the last time that it was done, which was for the presidential election, when there were 10,000 ballots to be. And I don't recall if all of the precincts were done. I mean, you work one precinct at a time because it has to be incredibly organized so that, you know, every envelope that's checked in is stored in a particular place, and you know it's labeled advanced removal, the date of advanced removal. There are forms that are associated with it. I can share with you the forms. I don't think we did it before the primary. I don't know if that was an option. It may have been, but we didn't do it. So I haven't done it for a primary, but we did it for the general election.
Okay. Where there's only, I mean, right now we've got like 1/10 the votes, right? So there's 1,200 approximately. That's bad math, but
well, there's 12. So because we have two
we might
elections, so we have,
right.
yeah.
So there's twice that about.
Yeah. So we do have, we have some volume. It's not terrible. It is less. I mean, judging, you know, when I talked to Carlin about it Friday, we had, you know, 600 back and 900 back. And it seemed like that's a low enough number that it's going to be done in 2 hours on election day. You know, is there a need? What we don't know is, are we going to get a lot more ballots in during this week? And does that, you know, add to the workload? And it's not just the amount of time that it takes, but on election day, we have, you know, staffing at the precinct. So we don't have as many people available.
Right. Yeah, I understand. That would take them away from the polling places.
Right. We do have some people that are already signed up to work at central tabulation. Those people cannot work at the polls. If you're working central tabulation, you can only do central tabulation.
And our involvement during this process is nothing. It sounds like you said that none of the four of us.
It's observer. You can be an observer to the process, but because we are the judges, if there is a recount and there is a challenge ballot, that we can't be handling or doing anything with ballots beforehand.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we can send in substitute observers too, right? Can we send in?
Well, anyone can send in observers. Observers
Right.
are a matter of law.
It could, yeah, it could be anybody. So like, say I'd really love to be there on Saturday or whenever you were gonna do this, but it turns out I'm in Maine. So I would maybe send somebody else in my stead.
It would have to be an open process, so we have to let the state know 3 days before we do it, so that they are aware that it's happening. We have to post it,
Right.
and it has to be done in an open process. So we would have to also reserve space to do it. And we have early voting going on. So today is Monday. If I let them know today, the earliest we could do it is Thursday, with everything received through Wednesday. And I would have to find a space in the building to do that,
Okay,
which may actually be a challenge. Friday is even more of a challenge because I'm actually doing some Zoom training on Friday, and I'll send you that Zoom information. So logistically, it may be a challenge. But the numbers are such, and we can also, call on volunteers, see if
Mhm.
the league can come in. They've helped us in a pinch in the past, and they helped a lot during the presidential election with signature verification, as well as the I think advanced removal, and everyone gets trained. Anita was overseeing, as a former town clerk, she was overseeing the signature verification. So it's,
And these people do not need to be approved by the select committee. So
The observers, I guess. Is that what you're talking about? The
Yep.
observers?
the people
No.
who open the ballots.
so the laws have actually changed to allow, because we can't expect to have select board availability to appoint right up to the day of the election, that we do our best to get everyone appointed. And if we have more people that we need that can't get appointed, then I can bring them in. And the registrars can review. I mean, basically they fill out information saying that they want to work. We get their information and we schedule them. There really isn't an interview process, but I can share with you any additional names of people that are available. I keep, everyone signs a timesheet so that we have accounting. There's always a warden and a clerk so that someone's overseeing the operation and someone's documenting anything that happens, the counts, and also any irregularities if there's something. And this is where, if we had, if there was a failed delivery of a ballot and we mailed a second ballot out, by the time, we have a lot of ballots here now. We'll have more ballots coming in. We're documenting and registering everything in our state system so that once the early removal, or if we do the advanced removal, once that's done, if there's a ballot out there and there was a failed delivery and we had to send a second ballot because someone said I never got it, and now they send it back, it doesn't get to the vault or any kind of sorting in with other things until we've registered it. And if we see that we already got a ballot back, we're not taking another ballot back. If
I'm
that
hearing-
makes sense.
Only one. You can only vote once.
You can only vote
Yeah.
once.
Got it.
So I'm hearing that we're not expecting to be overwhelmed. So, and while I appreciate that, it's nice to get stuff done and out of the way early, and then that you're going to be, you'll have that part done. I am concerned about the notion of separating envelope from ballot in in a different time and place than traditional and expected. So again, I'm not hearing that we're expecting to be deluged by by, even in the next week, by tons that we couldn't do it as part of the, normal central processing of mail-in ballots that apparently we already have some people already teed up to do in the central office. So it would allay my concerns a little bit about separating the chain of custody, maybe is the right way of saying it, just to make sure we have the right ballot and one person has voted once, as Ann said, and we know that because we have until election day, we actually have the envelope and the ballot together, and so we've checked that person in, and if another one arrives for that person, we'll have the answer that says, oh, we already have one from this person, and we won't have to go back and I think it just makes more sense and makes me more comfortable if we have all of that process happen sort of at the same time when it might traditionally be done.
I can certainly appreciate that. And I will add one thing that I had forgotten to mention is whenever we're handling evidence, separating ballots from envelopes is handling evidence, we have an officer there.
Yeah.
So that we have someone overseeing it, and we have, the ballot transfer cases that would have the ballots in them are sealed and the seal numbers are recorded. And so when they're brought to the central tabulation, this is what happened for the presidential, the seal number is read by the police officer to ensure that we're in fact looking at what we
right ones.
believe we're looking at. And they're pretty easy to break so that, you can't really tamper with the box when it's been locked. If I may say, Connie, given that we are not seeing the huge numbers of ballots right now that we saw, I think it's okay not to do the advance removal, but I would like to bring this up and really talk about it before the state election, because I think that can really impact our ability to get the work done for the state election.
For the
For November.
In
Yes.
November, yeah, because
Sure.
the volume is just so much higher.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like this can be managed, and also the practical getting a room and getting people assembled to do this may not be a good thing at this time. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I don't share Bart's concerns as much about separating envelope and ballot. I hear what he's saying at any rate.
Yeah, I think it's good to talk about it because the state regulations need to be strong enough that everyone feels comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So I hope that we can get to a point where, Bart, you do feel comfortable with it.
Well, this will certainly be, the experience that we have in this upcoming primary election will be helpful for me to understand how it goes and to see how it works, because it sounds like we'll probably be doing sort of the same thing, whether or not, I guess we don't have the storage. I don't know, you talk about the boxes with the seals and all that kind of stuff. I guess we probably won't have to do that process if we hold them and don't do the opening until election day.
So what?
Right.
So correct. So they're in the ballot envelopes. What will happen on election day is we'll have a police officer at the central tabulation facility, and then one precinct at a time. Basically, that process happens, except that the ballots are tabulated. So they're separated from the envelope after they're checked in. Then the ballots are flattened and they're tabulated. And once an entire precinct has been tabulated, the ballots are removed from the ballot box and put into a ballot transfer case and sealed, so that the next, because we don't have 5 ballot boxes, we have, actually, I'm trying to rent an extra tabulator, and I don't know if we'll get it in time for the primary at this point. And I've gotten the state to pay for it. It's ridiculously expensive, but the state will pay for it. And it will allow us to not use our spare machine. Because if we use our spare machine at central tabulation, we can't take it out to a precinct if we have a failure.
Mhm.
And what we don't want is to have to hand count because we had a machine failure. We've tested everything and everything seems fine, but a spare is a good idea anyway.
Mhm.
So if you have a chance to go to the central tab facility and watch the process, I think that is helpful.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to
Yeah.
do that.
I would like that.
And so that happens election day, right? That's
On
election day.
election day, and the central tabulation is, I think I've set it to open at 7
AM or PM?
a.m.
Okay, so you can, I'm curious because you can do the tabulation during the day. I mean, there's some, aren't there some?
They have to be done. The tabulation has to be done during the day. The only thing that's tabulated after is overseas ballots. And oh, I don't think we can hear you, Bart.
Okay, no, I was
So
just
sorry.
stuttering, just stammering, saying nothing really. But I was wondering is there timing related to polls closing and the ballot counting begins then? But it sounds like absentee ballots and mail-in ballots can be counted anytime during the day, right? I guess that's what, because most tabulation, I guess reporting, maybe that's what it is, occurs after polls close, right?
That's right.
when,
The reporting
Yeah.
occurs after polls close. Reporting cannot occur until after 8 p.m.
Right, but so the tabulation can occur, well, basically is occurring all day long as voters go through the in-person voting,
Yes,
right?
that's right.
That's happening all day long.
Yes.
So when I put my ballot in, is it counting then? So I put my ballot in that little machine that the meter goes up on, right? Or it's not just how many ballots are there, but it actually
On
is
election
calculating.
day,
Yeah.
on election
When I
day,
put
it's
that-
actually tabulating the results of your vote. And
When I slide
every
it in.
voter before and after you until 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
I didn't realize that was just sort of counting, okay, we got it, and then they go, then it's another process is run to count them. But no, it sounds like it's all being done at the same time.
Yeah, the only thing that gets counted at the end of the night is ballots that would not go through the machine. Or let's say someone had a vote by mail ballot and it's blank. Or they didn't fill in any ovals, but circled the names. The machine doesn't know and will reject it, but we can't override it on the voter's behalf. We have to hand count it at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Where is the central tabulation happening? Where does it happen?
In the hearing room, so second floor of the townhouse.
Okay.
Yeah, and it may be done early, it may be done by noon.
Mhm.
Or it may, depending on how much time it takes, what the weather's like, how easily the ballots flatten, because the state primary ballots are notoriously thin. They're cardstock, but they're really thin. So if it's a particularly humid day, the tabulator does not like getting ballots that are, curling or whatever. So there are all kinds of challenges.
Yeah.
And then so the process is the check-in. You say the check-in. So in the absentee, there's another step that's taken when the absentee ballot or mail-in ballot arrives in your office, right? Maybe it's concurrent with the signature check, but at that point you say, okay, we have a mail-in, an early voting or mail-in ballot from this person, right? And so that then will show on the rolls at the poll on election day. It'll show that we have received this person's ballot, right? So
at the polls, it will show that a person applied for a vote by mail or absentee ballot. So when they use the electronic check-in and they have an alert, they can't get past that alert until they let the warden know. The warden has to call us because we have to tell them whether the ballot has been returned. If the ballot has been returned and registered in the system, no one has access to our system. It's not on a network. It's on a state network. Then that person's already voted. They can't come in and change or do anything else. They've already voted.
So the only indication is that they'd asked for, that the person who's checking you in at the poll has an indicator on your, next to your name that says you would ask for a mail-in ballot. And, but it doesn't say that you'd received it. I mean, I thought that,
So for any, that's a really good question. And it will only show that a ballot has been received if at that poll, they have actually checked that voter in as having voted. So every time the AV shows up, they're going to, so when they have an actual absentee ballot in front of them, they're going to enter the name, enter the address, or it's just the name and the address comes up, and it will give them an alert. They see that they have the ballot in front of them. So the warden will override, because it's a ballot envelope. It's not a voter saying, I'm coming to vote even though I've been sent. This is the actual ballot. So they'll override it and say, this ballot has been received. Now, if this person comes in, it will say status accepted of the absentee ballot. This person's already voted. An early voter, however, because those are not processed at the polls, those are processed at the central tabulation facility. The election workers have no idea if the ballot has been returned or not. So they are required to call our office to see if that voter, and we just have to look it up. And if we look it up and their ballot has not been returned, but they put it in a drop box right before they came in, then at that moment, we have not received the ballot. We're gonna log that person's name in. And if we get that ballot through one of our drop boxes during the day, we're gonna see that we logged that person's name in on our list, that person voted at the polls. We're not gonna deliver that early ballot to the polls because the voter showed up. So it's a lot, there's a lot of checks and balances that have to happen, which is why we get constant phone calls throughout the day. Because voters have so many options, but they can only have one ballot count.
yep. That's a challenge.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but there are checks and balances in place. And that's why we do training. That's why the warden has the code to override an absentee or an early voter that shows up in person. If their ballot has been received, they've completed the task of voting and there's nothing else for them to do.
And they're sent home, right?
And they're sent home and they're
Thank you
thanked
very
for
much.
voting. Yep. Get your I voted sticker, but you're not
Yeah,
getting
here's your
another
sticker.
ballot.
Right.
Yeah,
Only
because
once.
at the polls, we don't have an envelope. At the polls, their ballot goes in and we have no idea which ballot is theirs.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So, yes.
What a
So-
system. What a system.
Did we decide then that we'll pass on the option to do the early removal?
I think so.
this time?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
that makes sense for this election.
We'll,
And I'll keep pressing for regulations.
Yeah.
we'll maybe know
yeah.
more by the next election.
Yeah, because if it's the same as 2020, then just change the year, but we need to see what it is. And I've told them, I said, the registrars want to know what the regulations are. We want to see it, so, okay, that's fine.
Good.
Yeah, now I guess we just have minutes, right, Connie? Oh, no, we voted the minutes.
No, we did
You
that.
did that.
We did.
I'm so confused, okay. I just moved my son into college today.
Congratulations.
Yes,
That's a big deal. What college?
busy day, Wheaton,
Where- Wheaton. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
not too far
That-
away.
Is this a
No,
freshman year?
sophomore year.
Sophomore year. Oh, so he's been there, done that already, huh? Or-
Yeah, so it was a much shorter drop off.
Yeah.
It was yeah.
That's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Oh, that's very nice.
Good.
Yeah. so
Anyway,
our
back
daughter-
to elections, right?
Yeah, our daughter's living in Brookline, so she moved out of her dorm in April, I guess. Moved to an apartment in Brookline, and we don't have to move her in for school this year. So it's very weird. I'll just get a bill.
Yes.
Books and things.
Well,
For rent
Right.
and tuition.
Yeah.
well,
So it
it's
sounds
my
like off-campus housing? Yeah.
it's my grandchildren that are in college. So there you go.
Oh, nice. Wonderful.
I guess we're ready to adjourn.
I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So by roll, Connie,
I.
I guessed, right? And
Yeah.
Yes, I.
Bart
Yeah, aye.
and myself, yes. Okay, so we are adjourned at 5:20 and I will stop the recording.
Okay.